The drive will continue. The drive will continue. This is now part two. Got a lot of things to talk about. But first up, Younes, how's everything going, my man?
Yeah, all good, all good. I mean, yeah, I say it's every time asks me, even funnily enough, even Johnny, right, even Minerals, like anyone, I'm on the stream talking about Chelsea. How you doing? Yeah, no, I'm great. Like me personally, I'm fantastic. It's funny, I get some comments telling me, oh no, Eunice, be careful, like your health. Like no, bro, I'm fine.
Yeah,
I couldn't be better. Trust me. People want to be positive. You used to see me in
yeah.
real life. Like I'm positive, bro. Things are great. But when I talk Chelsea, it's a mess, bro. It's a carnage. It's absolute carnage. So
Do you know what? Like, I understand completely what you mean because I'm the same. I clock
I
out
bet you
as
get
soon
it.
as yeah, like I clock out as soon as I'm focused when it's Chelsea content, when I'm talking to someone, I'm focused. As soon as it's all done, I clock out and I'm with my family, with friends and, work colleagues and whatnot. And it's a different story. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
But
yeah.
I do understand. It's a very important point what you just said. I do get it though. There are certain people that probably can't clock off. For them, it's 24/7 this. They may not have something outside of this. So, to all those people, like seriously, if you're struggling or you're finding it difficult in these times, reach out. Reach out to anyone. If it's us, it's us. If whoever makes you comfortable, reach out because I get it. For certain people, it can be everything. Like I can only imagine if I didn't have all these other things outside of football, then maybe I'd be screwed because this would be everything. Do you know what I mean? So
This is
yeah,
true. This is true.
just a note there so that you guys reach out. Eunice, part two. Let's get it cranking. I wanted to talk to you about first up. Look, whole heap of Roman Abramovich news dropped yesterday,
Mhm.
and you've reported on it. I'm going to report on it later today. Well, earlier today by the time this drops. I don't want to really touch base on that here because here I want to focus on what this ownership's all about and how everything that certain parts of the fan base believe, we're going to try and dig deep on that and uncover the real truth behind it. I don't want to talk about Roman because Roman, that's a totally different story where he got screwed. He just got screwed hard by the UK government, and that in itself is a separate podcast. Whether we do that later on, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. First thing I want to talk about in this part two, Eunice, this notion of one of the things that some parts of our fan base believe is, and this has been brainwashed in our head, that guys, stay patient. All of these players are young. They're going to grow together. Okay? Believe me, all of these are young players. They seem to have the right qualities with the right figurehead and the right recruitment. They'll all grow together. They'll all stay together. They've got long-term contracts. By the time the next 2, 3 years, they're all going to become superstars, and we are going to have a team that is going to win it all. They will win and dominate everything. This ideology, Eunice, I want to ask you first, what do you think about this? How do you feel about it? For me, it seems like, hey, it's such a naive way to think about life, like as if everything's going to stay constant. But you go first.
This is where positivity becomes toxic, as far as I'm concerned. This is where it gets to an unrealistic level because bunch of young players like that, yeah, sure. Do you get some that are genuinely talented? There's some that can go all the way? Yeah, they can. But are they in an environment and then are they being set up and do they have the right people around them to be able to get to the levels that these people think that they're gonna get to?
Hmm.
It's never been done. And not to say that it's never been done, therefore it cannot be done. No, because there are things that have never been done and then they do end up getting done. That's a different story. This we're talking football here. We need to bring an element of logic, right?
Hmm.
Um, when you get a bunch of just young players, unproven players, never done it, right? All of them at the same level at the same time, who's learning off who? And at
All of them
least,
are inexperienced, equally
exactly,
inexperienced.
it's the blind leading the blind, as far as I'm concerned. This is
Hmm.
where, and at least if you got in, the bare minimum to give yourselves a chance or an opportunity is to get yourselves a manager that has been there and done it and can
Yeah,
actually show them some sort of a blueprint as to, look, I know what it takes. This is what
yeah.
you need to do. We're not even doing that. We're going to experimental players, experimental manager,
Experimental
experimental.
SDs and
Everything's
experimental
experimental here.
owners.
What naive craziness do we think that this is all going to click when there's other competition that we're up against that
Like
are
they're gonna
doing things
stay stagnant. They're
normally?
gonna stay stagnant.
This is the thing. So when we do come up against those teams constantly, or in the long period of 38 games in a season plus cup competitions and all of that, you think we're going to get the upper hand? We're not. This is where the first notion of asking the question, are we even being set up to win here, comes into play. Because how are you going to compete? We're going to beat all of these guys and win with this. It's not been done. It won't be done. And this is why I've stressed for the longest at the core, right? At the core is to have young players, 100%. Every club
Yeah,
has young players, right? To an extent.
yeah,
Every
yeah,
club, or at least young players that they're looking at, or young players that they're thinking of bringing through, whether that's being bought or from the academies. But you have to balance that out with players that have been there more on the t-shirt, that do have some expertise, that do have some experience, that do have some pedigree, that do have some know-how, that can, in the moment, in the present, steer the team along and alleviate some pressure. People talk
yeah,
about young players and not dealing with pressure. Don't put them under pressure. They're forced to be under pressure because there's no one else.
yeah.
They have to deliver, but they ain't got the goods to deliver. You know, it's like asking someone to make a pizza, but they don't know how to make dough. Where the hell are you going to get the pizza from? The sky? Like, show them how to make the dough first, right? And then we can talk about the toppings.
And
Do you know what I
it's
mean?
true. It's true, Eunice. Like there's been so many situations in the past 3 seasons that the ownership has taken over. You can clearly see large portion of our players. It's almost as if certain situations are foreign to them. Like they're in a match situation, or they're in a even outside of the match situation, right? They everything seems to be too foreign for them. There's no know-how, or there is no guidance either from anyone else showing them how to navigate through. Like Eunice, you remember growing up. Yeah, you remember growing up as a kid. Right?
Mhm.
You knew nothing better as a kid. You might know a few things, but not everything.
No.
If you didn't have your parents' guidance, if you didn't have some elders in the family or cousins that are older or whoever else, friends that are a bit older, if you didn't have those guidance, would you be where you are simply just learning from yourself, self studying, self improving, learning from your friends who are also in the same situation? Would you be where you are?
In order to put yourselves into the right mindset, right mind frame, right environment, right people, you need that guidance in the first place. This is
Hmm.
where people are thinking, okay, they're just going to learn here on the spot, like it's not a problem. As I said, they're being set up to fail because even at that age, and like we've crossed a line now where I think we can get it.
Yeah.
And this is where the younger viewers,
Hmm.
you won't understand. And I say this from someone that used to think differently. Yeah, you won't get it because I used to look at people say this, what I'm about to say, and I used to be like, get out of here. And
Get
I
out
know
of
there's
here.
going to be some that are going to say, get out of here. Okay, you say that. Come back in 10 years, right? Come back in 10 years. You think you know it all.
Hmm.
You think you've got it clocked.
Yeah.
You haven't even gotten started. You genuinely do not know anything yet. Like that is just the truth. And even now, there's still things that were like, oh my god, you know. Look, I've had so many moments. I think over the last, I'm 32.
Hmm.
You're a little bit
I'm
older
nearly
than me.
I'm going to be 40 this year.
Oh, I had no idea. I thought you were younger than that, bro. You don't look it.
I'm 39.
Um, you don't look it. Um, there's moments. Well, for me anyway, the last I'd say 3-4 years
Hmm.
where I get little experiences happen And then I'm like, oh, yeah, no, like my dad or someone or whoever, oh my God, they were right on that one
Yeah.
point. Like it
Yeah.
clicks. There's something out of nowhere. Like, oh yeah, they were right. But look at when it was figured out. For a
So many
footballer,
years later. Yeah.
for a footballer, if you start figuring things out at 30, it's game over, mate. Yeah, it's
That
done.
career's gone.
It's done. The career's finished. Like, you know what I mean? This is why it's so important, at least in the short term. In
Yeah.
the short term is all I'm asking for, because young players will come through, but you need to set them up for the next, let's say all these players are 21, 22, 23. Yeah. For the next 3 years, you need to have a solid spine and some solid experience in that team to show them. After that, give them the baton. They're ready. After that, yeah, we can run with all these young players, not a problem. But at least put in something that's going to steer the team now, because there's no more important time than the present.
Hmm.
Instead of only thinking, you ain't going to get to the future if you're abandoning the present.
You know how many times I've said this, that our football club is so fixated, and once again they've brainwashed the fan base. And I want to talk a little bit about this. I want to segue this into the next part.
There's a reason why. Go on.
Like, it's about the future. It's about the future, and I'm like, bro, you can't build a house without a solid foundation.
Yeah,
You can't tell me about the future and start building a roof without a floor and without
exactly.
pillars. That roof is going to collapse on my head.
Yeah,
So this whole thing about me is, there's Kendrick Paez, there's Esteval, all of these we're all going to be superstars. We're going to win the World Cup again and again and again.
yeah.
And I'm like, are you out of your mind? Like, are you seriously out of your mind?
All these young players, even if some of them are performing in other teams and they're doing well, I guarantee they come to Chelsea, they stagnate. Like this, they'll stagnate. There's no way that they go even further. They'll stagnate. They'll reach a point of, I can't go any further like this.
Yeah.
And this is where we get to the point. It's funny because if I just had a little brainwave. Cole Palmer, we know, is a top player.
Yeah.
Yeah. He,
Yeah.
he seems like he's a special one, right? Even in games now, towards the latter stage of the season, there's fans going, oh, what are you giving me? You ask yourself why.
He's probably stagnating too.
This is what I'm scared of. Yeah.
He's
But
he's learned what he's had to learn by himself.
he'll go to another team. He'll go to a top team, and then he'll take himself even further because
Yeah.
there's others around him to push him. You are a product of your own environment. This is where people want to start talking positive thoughts and all of that. Well, you need to put yourself in the right environment and the right around people in order to develop and grow. At Chelsea, there's none of that. These players are not around the right people in order to grow. But we talk, again, on a footballing level and on a footballing logic as to why this applies. In order to get young players in, only thinking for the future. That's what the fan base has been fed. On a footballing level, yeah, we have our criticisms like we're mentioning and our worry and our logic as to why that cannot work. But on a financial level, it's the bang on
It's the
perfect thing to
best
do.
model. Best
You
model.
buy low and sell high, baby.
Yeah.
Buy low and sell
And
high.
not
Invest in the
necessarily
future.
even not but Eunice, not even sometimes necessarily have to sell. Buy low, build capital gain on that player.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because if you buy a player that's old, you're limited to that player's career, how long
Exactly.
that's left. You
Yeah.
buy a player young, you got a huge career ahead. So
Yeah.
that capital gain on that player is also part of the balance sheet. Do you know what I mean?
This is it. The rate of players depreciating doesn't come at a fast rate with young players. Even if they're not performing brilliantly, they don't depreciate.
They don't
Best,
depreciate.
at best,
Yeah.
is they'll just stay the same.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Cassidy is an
Cassidy.
example.
I was just going to say
He didn't
Cassidy.
even play.
Yeah.
He barely
Yeah.
played. Yeah, he went for
Maintain
the
the
sake
same
that we
price.
brought him in. But on the books, that's even still profit.
Yep.
Job
Yep.
done. Job done. At the worst, at the bare minimum. But if you get in a 29-year-old, right, and you buy him for a certain amount of money, and he doesn't perform, right? Well, yeah, dude, good luck.
And he's only getting older.
This But I mean, I don't. This isn't a good example, right? But this kind of relates. Why have we still got Sanchez and we're still using him as number one when
Mm,
Petrovic was there, for example? Because there's no suitors for Sanchez. No one's
yeah.
come in for Sanchez. No one's bothered to try and buy Sanchez.
So let's
So
keep
we have
playing
to
him.
use him.
Yeah.
With a Petrovic or someone else, yeah, no, cool. Send him out on a loan. He increases his value. Boom. But with Sanchez, even in that regard, there's no one to really even come in for him. So
Mm,
we have to use him and try and elevate him as fast as possible, which is
yeah.
just at the detriment of the football club and the football
Correct.
team on a
Correct.
footballing level. Whereas Petrovic, who's now doing well, he's getting minutes and whatnot, he's playing well.
Mm,
He won't come back to Chelsea because he's a better goalkeeper. No, he'll be sold
no.
because he'll get more money.
Yeah. And it's already been said. It's already been
And
briefed
it's already
that
been
he's
this has already been told to us.
yeah.
So I'm not making
Yeah.
things up here. This has already been publicized
Yeah. They've
through the PR and the briefs.
through the PR. Yeah, they've mentioned that he is not going to be part of the plan and he's going to be
Yeah.
sold and he's going to be sold for good money. We bought
Yeah.
him for cheap and he's built his resume up nicely at Strasbourg and he's gonna get that. Now, segue into this second part of this conversation. These owners must have clocked that fandom is slowly changing. The older generation is slowly disappearing. The new generation is entering. It's the football manager generation. It's about the new players. It's about that dopamine. It's about growing this beautiful little flower into this blossoming big flower. That is success. Trophies are not the real deal. Do you remember when Todd Bowley said earlier on in his piece, Cole Palmer has become like a household name in America? And if you
Mhm.
notice in America, every franchise, whatever sport it is, they're die hard about the player as opposed to the team.
Yep, the quarterback
Le-
first.
Quarterback in NFL.
Yeah,
LeBron, for example, wherever he goes,
yep.
that's my team.
Tom Brady is an example, isn't he?
There you
Yeah,
go. It's
yeah,
all about the individualism.
yeah.
It's all about that guy's career. It's about that guy's journey. I connect with that journey. Let's celebrate that journey. Let's
Mhm.
buy the merchandise. It's such an American. I feel like, sorry to all the American fans out there, but correct us if we're wrong. But I feel like it's such an American thing because I don't see that at a European level
No.
or any other level, whether it's in Asia, whether it's in Africa. This is such an American phenomenon, like young player. Like Younes, every other day we're linked with a young player. You see it every other day, literally.
Yeah.
I actually get worried when we lose because the next thing that's going to come out is a PR on another young kid because that's how they keep us going. Do you think these owners, Younes, they've clocked that fandom is going to that route? Football manager, they've seen, as you said in the first part of our episode of our podcast here, that Leighton Orient all the way to Champions League, winning the Champions League. I mean, do you think that they've clocked that this is what the fans want?
100%. 100%. These are the fans that are coming through. And in fairness, right, these young fans that are coming through, this is what they know. They don't know anything else. You know, sometimes you don't know what you don't know.
Mm,
This is why I say at the beginning, yeah, give it 10 years and you'll realize exactly like, oh, no, that person was right. Like when you get to a certain age, you start realizing you didn't know anything. This is the reality. That's the reality of life. But these football fans that are coming through are so hell bent on some of the factors that this whole model is based upon, including data. You know, when you're running a business, yeah, data is important.
correct.
It is important when you're running a
Looking at
business.
trends, yeah, making
Um,
sure you're making the right decisions.
of course, 100%. You need to see, you know, things down in front of you. You know,
Yeah,
metrics, things to
yes.
notify exactly where things are. But that's in
Mm,
a business. We're talking on a financial level here. You know,
mm,
football is a sport. At its core, football's a sport. It's win or lose. It's competition. It's coming up against others. It's you're not on your own. As a business, you may be competing in terms of other people, maybe in the space, but at the end of the day, you'll stay afloat as long as your business is performing correctly. You're not in direct competition with others to stay alive. You know,
Yeah.
there are many companies that will coexist in the same space and both do well and both call themselves successful. Not a problem. They're not, even though they're technically competing against each other, but they're both there and they're both happy. It's not a must win, must lose. You can both win. That's business. In
Mm.
football, as a sport or any sport, there's one winner, and there's no best loser. You know what I mean? If you've lost, you've lost. So
Yeah.
that's the core here, and that's what we're ignoring. Because the more and more we go along, the more and more it seems like these guys are just as they are basing a model on, let's not allow the results to dictate our success, or let's not
Mm.
allow the results to dictate our income and what we're bringing in, and to allow the results to determine whether we're successful or not, as it should be in a sport. They have created a model, much like how the Brighton chairman has illustrated it, in terms of the Brighton chairman made it clear we don't have the
Mm.
resources as the big clubs do. So that's the starter here, and I get that and I respect that, and they're right. They don't. If you only
Mm.
have what you have, right, you got to use what you got.
Yeah.
So so they've created a model that they can allow themselves to still be, making enough financially, keeping the club in a good place with what they have. You're
Yeah.
looking at young players that are undiscovered, trying to develop and grow them, and then, in his own words, sell them on for profit.
Yeah.
His words. When we're not in that position, we've got resources.
Mm.
We've just thrown 1.5 billion out of the window, just like that.
Yeah.
We have resources, or at least we had resources. Look what we've done with it. But this model on steroids, using the Chelsea name, using the location, using everything that's been built
Mm.
as Chelsea Football Club in order to leverage this model to another level, is what these guys are
100%.
doing, as far as I'm concerned. And why I ask, do you believe it's going to change, or do you believe it's changing? It won't, because, like you said, every single turn that we take, yeah, we're linked with another young player. We're looking at another young player, and then we end up going and getting another young player, and that's all we're doing, just looking at kids upon kids. When's that going to stop? It won't, because
It
that's the
won't.
model, and that's what they want to do. Just look
And
financially first, and then
and
if a result comes, yeah, it's a bonus. And this is where it I think correlates with what you said about the Americanization of things, because that's the feeling I get when I watch them. Well, I don't watch hardcore, but when I look at the American sports from the outside, I get a feeling like, yeah, winning is nice, but it's not the be all and end all. I feel like there's a mentality of, we'll go again next year. Cool, great. And we're here for the experience, and we're here for the entertainment, and we're here for the vibes. And if we win, great, more vibes. And if we don't, that's fine. We're still here, and we'll go again next year.
there's no
The,
consequence of losing,
there's
Eunice.
no
There's no
consequence.
consequence of losing. There's no
No,
failure. If you look
no.
at American sports, you get rewarded for failure. You get the best drafts, you get the best everything,
Yep.
heaps of money, and they try and elevate you. This is such an interesting point that you just made. In fact, you actually made that in the first
Mm.
part as well. The fact about this whole model, which is not really based on winning or losing really impacting anything financially. They want to eliminate that. And I want to add one thing, and I think this is going to blow your mind a little bit. Do you remember when Todd Bowley came in, or was it Iqbali? They said, "What? Champions League's not guaranteed every season?"
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
remember when they said that?
Yeah. There
Why
was a
would
few.
our owners say that, Eunice? Why would they say that? Because for them, they thought it doesn't matter whether you win or lose, you're
Exactly.
guaranteed Champions League all the time. I'm guaranteed of that revenue. It's a passive income every season, whether I'm last or whether I'm first. So I don't have any worry there.
Yeah.
I'm going to get my 40 million to enter that competition every season, regardless whether I make top four or not.
Yeah.
As soon as they realized, whoa, 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 no one told us you have to qualify for this. Well, now it's a little bit strange, isn't it? I have to qualify. So it's out of my hands. I have to rely on players and a manager and SDs and recruitment team to create me a team that's going to regularly bring me to top four.
Yeah.
That's too much risk.
It's too much
That's
risk.
risk at every level.
There we are.
How do
And
I control this risk?
and the best way in business, these guys will know. A couple of these guys are flipping billionaires, but at the bare minimum, at least on what I know, the best thing that you can do in order to generate financial gain is to always manage your risk. It's to always, in order to win financially, you have to manage your risk. That's the first thing. Risk management is key, right? Because if you allow too much risk on the table, you're setting yourself up to lose big, and then it becomes a gamble.
It's
And
not a
this
good
is
news
why
for the investors, Eunice. This is not a good news for the investors when
this is
there's
it.
risk.
But when you set up a model where it's not determined based on winning or losing, and that money is almost a guarantee, or you've set up minimal risk for big returns or potential big returns, happy days. And this is the thing in football, that cannot equal winning. The
Nope.
two cannot go together. Impossible. Which is why I came to the place of, are these guys changing or not? Like, it's clear. I feel like this season, at the beginning of the season, it was clear because
Mm,
we all had the blueprint in our heads and we all made it clear, especially as Chelsea fans, right? All right, this season we got to get top four. Next
mm.
season we got to be in a title race. Because enough is enough. We've done enough. We've waited enough. We've spent enough. There's no excuse now, right?
Correct.
Heading into Champions League next year, if we were to actually go and get that, well, we need to set ourselves up correctly to go and get that.
Mm.
We've not done that. We're not bothered. We're genuinely not bothered. We're chancing it. If it happens, great. If it doesn't,
Well, currently we don't have a striker. That's how much we prepared.
apparently we don't. Who would have thought that? Who would have thought that
So,
was going to happen?
so this thing about, let's say for argument's sake, Eunice, and to all the fans out there, let's play something out to the positive fans out there. I want to give a little nugget for you guys as well, so that you don't feel that, oh, this is just all going in one direction, making us believe that this ownership stuff. Let's play it out. Let's say for argument's sake, we do make it to Champions League next season.
Mhm.
I want to ask this question to all those positive fans out there. Do you think it's on the best interest of the owners to keep pumping money into this team to get the level of quality you need to maintain a Champions League status? Because these guys, as Younes have mentioned and as I've said, they've looked at the Brighton model and they've said winning and losing don't matter one bit to Brighton, and they're making money.
Yeah.
And they've put the steroids on that model at Chelsea, and that's what they want to progress towards. Because as we've said, for investors, we are not owned by a singular person or a family. It's not the Cronkays, it's not the Glazers.
Exactly.
Okay? Eunice said something very, very important, and I know it might have gone over for certain people in the first episode. We're not owned by individuals or a family where for them, this is their baby. It means a lot to them. And even then they're struggling. Even then they are struggling to appease the fan base, right? We are actually a next step even further. We are owned by institutions that have shareholders that are only concerned about return.
Exactly.
I don't care whether Chelsea gets relegated. I don't care whether Chelsea wins the Premier League. How much are you giving me in return is what I want. I've got $100 on the table. What is your return by the end of the year? I need minimum $150.
Exactly.
I'm just making it as simple as possible out there.
Yeah.
So this notion that for you guys to believe, oh, We'll make it to Champions League this season, and then we're going to continue forever be in the Champions League. No, to be forever be in the Champions League, you need certain level of investment on a regular basis.
Mhm.
And that, I think, is too risky, Younes, for this ownership to consistently pump large sums of money on big players because
Yeah,
that deviates away from their model.
it completely, because when you build a team like we had, let's go back. If we have a team where we get players in and we have the mindset of, okay, these are young players, we want to keep them for a decade, like we
Mm,
did. We brought in Didier, JT, Lamps, JT from our academy,
mm,
fair play. Petr Cech, Ashley Cole, all these guys, right? Yeah, how long were they with us? Years, right?
yes.
Years. At the bare minimum, 8, 9 years,
Mm,
some
mm,
longer, right?
yeah.
And even like Didier twice, you know? So if you have those players that are in your team and they ain't going anywhere, right? Where's the money coming from? In terms of the players, you got the same players. No one's been, they're not being sold. Do you know what I
Mm,
mean? And even the little players that you have here and there, yeah, maybe one might be sold here, one might be bought here, one might be sold there, but that's not going to be financially viable. You're thinking football here. You're thinking on a footballing level. You're thinking in terms of what the team actually needs. Add this, take away that, add that, cool, leave it. Let's see what happens, right? You're thinking on a footballing level. And
mm,
then you're allowing the only financial incentive here is to actually go far in competitions and to win. That's the
correct.
only way that you're going to actually make decent money. But
Mm,
again, that's risk. That's out of your control. Technically, it's out of your control. You can only
mm,
maybe go so far. Maybe you get to a semi-final, you lose. And
yep.
even then, there is financial incentive. There is a reward, but it's not making it to the final and winning it. But
Yep.
that's how we were running.
Yep.
Whereas if you don't have players that are going to be a core and they're there, right? No matter what. I'm talking for like the majority of a decade,
Mm,
right? Then it's going to keep changing, isn't it? And if you keep changing, then those players are going to be sold, new players bought in, sold. If you have players that are just stuck there, where's the room for young players to come in, increase their value, and be sold? There's no room
there's no
because
room for them.
those players are not moving those players out of the
Mm,
team because these guys are too good. Do you know what I mean? It,
100%.
the two don't mix. This is why this
100%.
model is not changing and it cannot equal success. And this is why lately I've asked the question is, do you believe it's going to change? Because now I'm asking that intentionally to get people to see, yeah, no, it's not changing, is it?
Yeah. You want
Oh,
people to use their work your brain. Like
work your
it's
brain a bit, man.
do you know the picture that you just demonstrated? The constant need in this model to sell and bring fresh, sell
Yeah.
and bring fresh. Do you remember which club this reminds you of? A club that was always happy to finish fourth. Every time they looked like they had a team, players disappeared to other teams and won trophies. They started again. Do you remember which club it reminds me of?
Yeah, I believe they play in red, don't they? Red and white. And I think they're based in and around the Highbury and Islington area of London, aren't they?
People need to clock. I don't know the younger fans if you've seen the days. Like Younes and I, we've seen Arsenal do these nonsense stuff. Ask any, diehard Arsenal fans. They've seen this for the
Yeah.
past 20 plus years. How many times, Younes, Arsenal came to a position where, ooh, they look like they got a team. They look like they might next season do something. And that summer, Sami Nasri is gone.
Or they always lost their best players.
100%.
Always.
Robin Van Persie, did you ever in your wildest dream think, wow, he's going to leave Arsenal
And go to United. Nah,
to
never.
go to United?
I never thought that would happen. Nah.
The day of Palmer leaving us and joining one of these clubs,
Yeah.
continue this nonsense, it's not far away.
It's not far away at all because
It's not far
there
away.
are players that have to say players don't have ambition. It would be in disingenuous. A Cole Palmer, I believe, would want to be playing Champions League football constantly.
He'd
If he's
want
not,
to win the
if he's,
Premier League on his
if he's,
own, Younes. He'd want
if
to
he's
win the
not
Premier
getting
League on
it,
his own.
yeah. If he's not getting it here with us, and a club comes in for him, not only will he have his head turned, but even the club will look and go, "Oh, 130 million, cha-ching, guys, let's do it." Don't worry, it's fine. We got the next 17-year-old coming who's going to be the next Cole Palmer. It's cool. We got this. No problem.
You believed us with Cole, you will
Yeah,
believe us with him. We will
100.
do it again.
100. And honestly, I think the timing of Esteval Willian coming in is going to allow this to happen. Because Esteval Willian has already been hyped up to be the next flipping, I don't know, Neymar. Literally.
Yeah.
Yeah. He already actually is. Some people saying
Yeah.
he's already better than Neymar. Yeah. Cool. You do you. Once he comes to Chelsea, I guarantee if a bid comes in for Cole Palmer, no problem. He's the new face. We've got him. Don't worry. You can go.
Well, we already know there's too many faces. You know, this is the thing, Younes, and we're going to soon segue into the other two topics before we wrap it up.
Mm.
You know, all the stuff that we did this window, Younes, it's all about to come back to us in the summer.
It is.
And the mess we're going to be having to conduct in the summer is monumental. Sterling is on a loan. He ain't being bought by Arsenal. He's coming back.
That's going to be interesting.
Renato Vega is coming back. And I don't think he will want to stay at Chelsea knowing he's starting at Juve. João Felix has already made his intentions very clear. I don't think I want to go back.
Yeah.
And these are just 3 players. There's so many more I've not even mentioned and I can't even remember because that's how much business we do. It is going to be such a mess to get all of this done and all of this distraction. How do you think the preseason's going to be? Where all of these players are going to be floating around and all sorts of questions that Maresca, if he is still there, I don't know, he's going to have to deal with all of these questions. So, Maresca, Enzo, what about Renato? What about Sterling? And he's going to have to navigate through all of that nonsense again and again and again. It's not healthy for a football club, bro.
No. And don't forget, this pre-season, well, funnily enough, we've already got the brief, haven't we, that they're looking at this like a 2-season season.
2-season season.
2 seasons. A 2-season season.
What is that?
Who makes this up? Oh, because we got Club World Cup. Mate, these owners and the way that we've been moving, we've been technically hyping up this Club World Cup since they basically walked in. Since it was made clear that because we had, because of our past performances and because we'd won the Champions League in 2021, we had qualified for this tournament in the first place. They've been hyping it up since then to try and make it look like, oh, this is something new. And, you know, we're only knowing about this now. So it's a 2-season season. Get out. We've been promoting the Club World Cup since these guys walked in because they know that the moment we even show up, we get 50 million. And then if no matter how far more we get in that competition, if we do,
money.
we get little bits more on top. But that's easy money. That's come straight into the football club. This is what I'm saying. So it's not going to be a normal preseason. Technically, there is no preseason because the Club World Cup is the preseason.
Pretty much.
We're going straight into that tournament. On the back end of it, there's not much time from the end of the season till the
finishes
Club World
13th
Cup.
July, I believe. So
Yeah.
there's literally not much time.
And then when you finish the tournament, depending how far we get, because I'll say there's already players that are preparing for their summer activities instead of actually thinking we're going to go all the way in the Club World Cup. That's
100%.
already
100%.
that. So if we were to somehow make it all the way to the final, then there wouldn't be any time until the start of the season. Anyway, at best, we've got maybe 2-3 weeks of preseason. Tops. And that's if we get eliminated early, you know? So it's preseason is in the bin as far as I'm concerned. But this is why it's imperative to have prepared to start looking at names that can come in and help the squad now, not for the future.
100%.
Stuff that. Because if we're trying to make
100%.
Champions League football, that should be what's going to get us across the line, at least for next season. I'm convinced we go into the summer window and there's going to be nothing. There's going to be more kids, and there's going to be links with players that some fans might want to get them just to stay interested and to wait
Mm.
and to hang on. And then, it didn't happen. If not, Osimhen would be here right now, wouldn't he? But he's not. So,
Eunice, how can it be? How can we actually do proper business with all of this mess that we need to clear out first? On top of that, I think our reputation is being damaged in the outside world. Players looking in. Tell is the latest player. Olise last summer said,
yep,
"You're dealing with me, yet you're going out and signing all of these kids on the side. Like, I don't feel like you're actually taking me as an important player.
exactly.
You're looking at me as just a side dish, and you're still negotiating all of these kids on the side." So I don't think the reputation is great for us from that perspective. I want to now talk to you about some financial side of things before we slowly wrap it up. This front of shirt sponsorship. All right. We've now gone almost the entirety of the season without the front of shirt.
Yeah.
Eunice, people tell me lots of revenue coming. We've got front of shirt coming next season. Many people lined up to have Chelsea as their big sponsor. That's a lot of money coming through. Club World Cup will give us money. We've got plenty of money. We should be able to harness a fantastic team, this, that, the other. I've I've started to clock if a club can go almost the entirety of the season without a front of shirt sponsorship, how important is this? How important is this money then? Do you know what I mean? Like, is this actually so detrimental for you? Because if it was, why don't we have a front of shirt sponsorship already? What's
Yep.
your thoughts about this whole front of shirt sponsorship, which is being touted to us like the holy grail?
This is where we go back to the point of being, say, backed by institutions instead of a single individual or someone with a certain net worth is important, because when you look at it from that perspective, we're just a small piece of the portfolio. When you look at it from that perspective, it doesn't really
Mm,
matter, does it? And then they'll wait it out. If we make Champions League football, great. We can get a bigger front of shirt sponsor. They need that answer first. It's
mm,
clear that answer needs to come in first.
mm.
Why commit to a front of shirt sponsor when we might get Champions League football? We might get something better then. So we might as well just wait because we can, because we're not in financial detriment here. It's not make or break. So it's cool. If this was another football club, though, yeah, they can't really run without a front of shirt sponsor. Even if it's something like, okay, now get something over the line quick. Even if they
Yeah,
know, like, we want 40, 50 million, that's not going to happen. 25, that's better
yeah,
than nothing. Get it in. At
yeah.
some point, your hand will be forced. Our hands are not forced, because if we were backed by a certain individual, or if it was a family, just a certain net worth, right?
Mm,
Then, at that point, you got to get a front of shirt sponsor in. We've
yeah,
gone a whole season, and these guys are cool with it because, like I said, when you're
yeah.
run by technically institutions, and you look at how big that portfolio is, and we're just a small little crumb on the big
For
massive
them,
cake.
it doesn't matter one
It doesn't
bit.
matter. And this is
Yeah,
why, like, I look at this and I think these guys are only just bothered about ROI and just a return on investment here. That's it. They're just
100%.
bothered about this. Can we put that much in and just get more out of it? And that's it. That's it. That's
Yeah.
it. That's all they're bothered about.
But honestly, the fact that they've gone almost the entirety of the season, it just tells you that
It's insane.
it like they're not that cash strapped. They're not that much in the red in terms of financial fair play. Like, how insane is that? Like, as you said, any other club would do anything possible. Just get me something, at least get me 20 million, so that's something in the bank. An entire season we have someone 20 million bare minimum. They, as you said, no, we'll wait it out. Maybe there's something better.
Yeah.
We'll wait it out. It's not the end all or the make break all for us. We'll
And
wait.
money's been made elsewhere. Don't forget that. You know, it's been made elsewhere. How? Oh, look at the assets that they now have under this whole umbrella. If you
Yeah.
actually go onto Companies House, right, which is the UK platform for, you
Mm.
look at tax figures,
Mm. Financials,
directors,
balance sheet,
balance,
profit and
yeah,
loss, and all that.
everything
Yeah.
that is an overview of a certain company or individual operating out of the United Kingdom is on Companies House, public information. And you go out and you look at what the Blueco as a company, that's
Mm.
important. Blueco as a company has owned as its assets under its umbrella.
It must look majestic, bro. It must
Bro,
look majestic.
Chelsea is its own
Mm.
thing as the men's team. You got Chelsea women as its own
Yep.
separate company. You
Yep.
got the hotels as its own
Hmm.
separate company.
Our
You,
academy is Cobham as well.
yeah, I think so. I'm not going to say yes or no. I think so.
Yeah.
There's about 12 or 13 things listed there. It's insane. So
Yeah.
um, there's that. There's obviously Strasbourg is separate. Um, the car park is listed as its own separate company. Um,
Because it's real estate, Eunice. It's real estate. So
there we are. There we
it's
are.
not just people might think car park. That's just where you park your car. What's that? It's the land.
It's the land that it's on. You know, the training ground as a whole is listed separately. Um, there are things that have been done there financially to not only get over the line with FFP, PSR, all of that, but in the long run, when you separate all of those assets, you can bump up values all of those individually, can't you? And then collectively,
100%.
you end up generating more. Whereas if you put it all
100%.
under the same umbrella as one Chelsea Football Club, there it is, that's a package. You know, you can end up making more if you were to separate all of it. That's exactly what they've done. So a shirt sponsor, and we can wait to see if we get Champions League football. If we don't, then we'll figure it out.
And Club
So
World Cup's just around the corner as well.
and Club World
So
Cup, this has been, I think, the saving grace. I say saving grace. I mean, in their eyes, mate, we walk into the Club World Cup for something that they didn't even accomplish. They didn't win the Champions League. They
no,
got this football club, and it was a given.
yeah,
We get 50 million just to show up at this competition, just to show up. If we make it past, I'm assuming it's a group phase.
it
It's going
is.
to be a group
Yeah,
stage, and then last
we should be
16,
going through the
and then
group and then last 16. Yeah.
then add a little bit more. It's not going to be 50. It's probably going to be 60 something, or maybe close to 70.
Mm.
You know what I mean? They get
Money
that
that they
for
have
free.
not worked hard for. They have
They've
not even worked hard for.
That's Roman. Thanks,
That's
Roman.
Roman. That
Thanks,
is
Roman.
Roman. That is Roman.
Yeah.
Last but not
And
least,
Mr.
Younes.
TT. Big up
Exactly,
TT.
and Mr.
And the
TT.
players that were there. Yeah.
What once upon a time it used to be, man. It's sad. It makes me sad, man. Honestly, it makes me sad. Um, Last but not least, this whole stadium hoax.
Yeah, it's a hoax.
I think this is another hoax, right?
Yeah.
These owners have done their research, Eunice, bro. They're so savvy when it comes to selling a product. When they sold their whole package and they enticed all of us in, we're going to get this new stadium, brand spanking, state of the art, Colosseum level stadium for Chelsea Football Club. It'll be like the best in Europe, best in the world.
Yeah.
Something that Roman couldn't even do at his time. Pitch owners are a big, big obstacle in this.
Yep.
Eunice,
Big.
I don't know what homework they did. I don't know what homework we did as a fan base. But I'm very clear now. This new stadium ain't happening, brother. It's
not.
not that easy. I
It,
don't know how you actually execute this.
it was never going to be easy because I'm not blaming them here. In fact, I think they're a good thing because of the CPO. And some people will
Mm.
be like, oh, the CPO are holding us back. The CPO are the ones saving the situation here. You
Yeah,
look deeply,
because
because if not, these guys would have free reign to go and do whatever the hell they want.
100%.
You know?
100%.
And I'm not sure if they understood what the CPO actually does. Because I don't know. Maybe they knew, maybe they didn't. You'd think they'd know. But I get a feeling that maybe they didn't quite understand just how deep it actually goes.
Yeah.
The CPO own the pitch, right? That
That
land, that
player's
pitch,
playing. Yep.
yeah, that is leased to the club for them to play on. The CPO own that. And the CPO has like, I don't know, 15,000, 20,000,
A lot of
25,000
members. Yeah.
shareholders. You can go and get
Yep.
a share if you want, and I encourage it. And they own the name, Chelsea.
Yep.
That's owned by the CPO. That's not owned by these lot. You know, that's if these lot really wanted to, right, to separate themselves from it, they would have to go, okay, CPO, you can keep that. We're going to go elsewhere and we're going to change the football club name and we're going to build a new stadium somewhere else in order to
And it's going to
avert
hold
from the
concerts.
CPO.
It's going to hold weddings. It's going to hold all sorts of stuff.
That would be the only way. But for that to happen, but the fan base it won't be allowed. It just wouldn't be allowed. And I don't know if there's any legal obligations in terms of the structure between the CPO and the football club. What I do know is obviously the club are leasing the pitch from the CPO. Now, is that for a certain amount of time? Is there a leasehold on it? Like you'd think there would be. So
There has to be.
like any
There
other
has to be.
property,
I'm pretty sure that lease gets renewed
it gets renewed
after a certain time.
So there's that. But then people look at Earl's Court, right? And they think, oh, Earl's Court, which, is really not far. It's pretty much around the corner from Stamford Bridge. Yeah, when you look at it in terms of location, great. That's not happening. Every time we get a brief for PR to try and make it look like something's going to happen, but the redevelopment of Earl's Court is already in motion. It's already been approved. It's already gone through the community over there. It's already gone through the certain checks. It's already gone through all the approvals that were needed on a residential level, on a local government level, and on a major scale. That redevelopment is already in motion. They're not going to stop all of that, abandon it, and go, oh no, we're going to give it to Chelsea Football Club now. It's not happening. You know? So this Earl's Court notion,
it's a fugazi notion. It's a fugazi. It's just to keep you believing that something's happening.
That something might happen. It's not going to happen. Absolutely no chance. Absolutely no chance. And there's nowhere else that's really viable. Unless if you move out into, I don't know, Surrey, or you completely move out of the area into somewhere in the wilderness. You have to move out. Yeah. The CPO are aware of this. This is why they technically, with this, they hold all the keys. They hold all the keys. And this is where, if it hadn't been for the CPO, like I said, these guys would have free reign to go and do what they want.
I was going to say, Younes, imagine if the CPO bent over backwards and just gave it all to these lot after what they've shown where they're taking the club. Imagine they just said, we trust you. Here you go. The key's all yours.
Yeah.
Imagine what the mess they've done with the football club. Imagine what they would have done with the whole stadium as well.
Mate, this is the thing. And the CPO, I think people look at CPO like it's just one or two individuals. Like I said, the CPO has thousands and thousands of shareholders, including normal people, including old players, including old managers. They're all given a share, you know? Everyone will have a say. If there's something that has to go through the CPO, it goes through a vote. Now, the problem with these owners, they know something goes through the CPO. With the way that things are at the moment, there's no way anything's being voted in their favor. No way. The CPO will go, nah, mate, we're not doing this. Relax. And with Stamford Bridge, the issue with Stamford Bridge is that you can only redevelop Stamford Bridge to a certain extent. You know? Now, what I don't get about the whole Stamford Bridge thing is that when Roman was in charge, there was a plan that was approved. There was a plan that was approved. It went through the council. It gave the green light. Do you remember the cathedral?
Yeah.
And that was going to be, I think, close to a 60,000 capacity stadium.
Yeah, it was,
That was approved, and clearly it was viable to do. even in terms of where Stamford Bridge is quite restricted, it's quite limited
Mm,
in terms of the train tracks, underground, main road, residential. It's
mm,
very locked in. So you can only use that space and maximize it. But there was a plan there that did maximize that and managed to get what would be the capacity get in and around 60,000.
mm,
Where's that gone? Why don't we just bring that back out, back up again? You know, I don't understand why wouldn't we?
mm,
But we've
mm.
not done that since. Obviously, since Roman had to be exiled from the UK and then eventually just had give up everything, um, all of that just ran out, got put in the bin, not seen it again. And I know for a fact, personally, if the option was to redevelop Stamford Bridge, the CPO would be on board. Because for the CPO, the most important thing is we're staying here and our name won't change and the football club remains here. End of story.
100%, because that's the more viable scenario, isn't it? I'm
Because
staying and you're increasing the capacity. That's perfect case
because yeah,
scenario.
because the structure doesn't change. The CPO still remains intact. Nothing
Yeah.
changes. Everything just okay. We just have a bigger stadium. Great. We're all
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah.
But to try and move elsewhere gets complicated, and the CPO know
Very,
that.
very complicated.
So
Yeah. And it's crazy. You look at every little promise from this ownership when they took us over. Nothing's really viable. Nothing is viable. And now we get to see their model at full scale as to exactly what they want to do with the football club.
yeah.
At the beginning, I don't think any one of us would have even contemplated or even comprehend what is happening now. None of us would have guessed that this is where they were taking us. You
No.
know, because this is what, as we said, Brighton. This is what they do. This is what Ajax would do, or so on and so forth. But now, here we are. Here we are, and I hope, and we'll wrap it up here. I get Younes's final thoughts as well.
Yep.
And I hope the people that have watched this over the 2 episodes, if you've missed the first one, do check it out, where we covered a lot of ground there as well. And the whole picture is that, guys, we need to create a wave as much as possible, and that awareness that these people need to leave. I've still seen few people comment in the first episode that they're not going to go. Why not? Why won't they? At the end of the day, as Younes has mentioned several times, this is not an individual. This is not a family. This is an institution. If enough pressure is applied on them, they'll pack up bags because they don't want no reputational damage. They don't want no risk arising from areas that's going to affect their return on investment. It's not good for the business.
Or bad image.
It's not, it's a bad image. They
Yep.
don't want ultimately Clear Lake and all their investors, all their shareholders to be looked upon in a bad nature, which we already do. They don't want it to get to a situation where people at Stamford Bridge are like breaking doors down. Like, get these guys out of here.
If there's enough noise and there's protests and there's enough people that are fed up, image is everything here. If we're talking money, if we're talking in terms of what these guys are actually trying to do, yeah, the one thing that can bring them to a halt is bad image and is bad perception and is unhappy people, because that's where confidence begins to dip. And if confidence dips,
Yep.
as you've said, that's where it impacts the mindset of shareholders and people involved. And they go, oh my God. They start contemplating, at least they start contemplating. And that's not good for business. So that's where it hurts. But again, the aim isn't just for that. The aim is for the football club. I'm not looking to here to like, oh, I want to hurt Clear Lake. No, I couldn't care less about Clear Lake. I cared about what's being done to the football club. And if we're unhappy, we'll say it. Simple as that. Now, whatever consequence there is out of that, you do you, yeah? But the football club is at stake here because the direction we're being led down is a fugazi, as many people are calling it. So image is everything here. Image is everything.
And as we've mentioned in the first show as well, sell up and make your profit. Younes is not stopping you for that. I'm not stopping you. No one's stopping you. Sell up, get your profit.
And
Happy
leave.
days for you.
Which they
Happy
can
days.
do.
100%.
I want to stress they can do. And this will need more detail and more ways to look into it. But people have been convinced
That they
that
can't sell up.
Chelsea can't be sold. They're locked in for
Mm.
10 years. Who's locked in for 10 years? If that's even the case, who's locked in for 10 years? Is it Todd Bowley and Egbali and Walters and Feliciano and these guys individually? Or is it Blueco, the company?
Mm.
Put two and two together. As I said, that will have to, that more will be looked into that. But to try and say that they can't get out, they can get out.
The bottom line is, ladies and gentlemen, no multi billionaires. We're not talking about 1 or 2 billions. We're talking about multi billionaires. Just ask yourself, which organization out there locks themselves up for 10 years in a project that has so much uncertainty?
Billionaires
This
like this.
isn't like a 10-year bond, like a government bond.
Exactly.
That's regular interest income.
Exactly.
Government ain't gonna cheat you. Government's got X amount of money that they have promised that they're gonna give you in return if you put the money with them. That's government bond. It's like the best type of investment you can. Might not be the greatest return, but it's like the most locked in type of investment you can
Yeah.
do. Chelsea Football Club is not a bond.
No. No.
It's it's not a government bond.
Eh,
And for us to think and believe the briefs that were given to us that they are locked in and they're still going to get the return on investment,
Bro, we
forget
have
it.
to remember that initially came about whilst Chelsea still had debt.
Mm,
And it was a Glazer clause. Much like how the Glazers ended up acquiring Man United because of the whole debt situation.
mm.
When Roman eventually left, he wiped the debt off.
You wipe the date off.
That
Yeah.
clause doesn't apply.
Yeah.
It just doesn't
He
apply.
literally said, "Don't worry about the 1.5 that you owe
Yeah,
me
cool. I'll
or
write
the
that off.
club.
It's done.
Write that off." Yeah.
So what are we talking about here? And as you said, if the best way is to manage risk in order to make money is to manage risk, why would they take on, like you said, a football club, lock themselves in for 10 years? They can't get out? What billionaire does that?
No
No chance.
chance.
No chance.
No chance.
People need to, like I said, people need to stop reading into PR lies, because we're being lied to now as far as I'm concerned, and nonsense that's coming out on behalf of the football club to try and paint a narrative and a picture of a certain thing that the club want people to have.
Yeah.
People need to steer away from that and start reading in between the lines and just start dismissing this nonsense, because that's
This is a
eventually also what's going to hurt them too.
this is a mechanism to make a fan completely believe that I'm
Compliant.
going nowhere. Yeah,
So
I'm
make
going
fans
nowhere.
compliant. Yeah.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah.
So, Younes, thank you so much, my man. To everyone that's watching, first of all, subscribe to Younes if you haven't, by the strangest of occasions. I'm pretty sure you all have. But if there is one that thought, oh man, I've never heard this guy, time to subscribe. Time
I
to
appreciate it.
subscribe.
Welcome.
Time
Thank you.
to subscribe. Even if it's one, it's time to subscribe. Smash up the like button as well. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, subscribe. Let's get to 40,000. Very, very close now. And we will see. Let's get your feedback. If ever down the track we need to come together again, we will. But for now, hopefully, you guys can enjoy part one. And this is part two. And let us know in the comment section anything else down the track if you ever want us to talk about. We'll try and revisit it. Until next time, everyone, take care. See ya. Goodbye.